Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back your lovely faces to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to take a look at something which I just happened to come across, and to be honest with you, it is one of the greatest written articles about Dan Wootton I've ever read. And it sums up everything of what this man is. But first of all, I do want to say, because it's now coming up to October, spooky season is coming along, and I was thinking of each week reviewing a movie on this channel, not the horror channel, on this one, and I was wondering, would you be up for that? If you are, let me know in the comments below. But let's get on into today's article. So I did see this, and I was actually like, right, okay, let's have a little look, see what's going on, because obviously, Dan Wootton is a snake. He's a horrible person. Wootton, you know it. GB News' first star hire is the worst person in UK journalism. This was written earlier this year, January. Desperate Dan Wootton has a brass neck, the morality of particularly unreliable alley cat, and the manipulative powers of a cartoon snake in a Disney film. And that there, I just think that's funny as hell. So, good old Desperate Dan, that's who he is. There's a myth that everyone from New Zealand is nice. People imagine that being home to Hobbiton, an odd kind of pseudo-1950s civility, Jacinda Ardern's plague-free island is populated entirely by lovely people. 2 words, and 1 person. Disprove that theory, Dan Wootton. UK journalism is such a hive of scum and villainy that it makes the Mos Eisley cantina look like a crash. But Dan Wootton, who combines ologynous pseudo-moralizing with a howling immorality that allows him to traffic cruel celebrity stories and culture war BS without blinking, is the worst of them. Straight away, those 2 first paragraphs I absolutely love. They are so funny. So, having started in New Zealand as an entertainment writer on the Dominion Post in Wellington, where he was also a reporter for the Good Morning TV show, he arrived in the UK at 21 and bounced around the trades before getting a job at broadcast. He made the leap to the News of the World in February 2007 and was rapidly promoted, becoming TV editor in November of that year and showbiz editor a year later. He stayed there until 2011 when the News of the World would close. It closed down because they were they were the ones who were phone hacking here in the UK to a lot of celebrities. They were getting, that's how we got his stuff, you know. But one of the biggest ones was a young girl went missing, and News of the World, they hacked into her phone and they were deleting messages left by people, which gave people, the family, all hope. Someone's got her phone, someone's listening to her, she's alive still. But it wasn't, it was these people. That's how bad these people are. Wootton got a new job at the Daily Mail as a columnist and feature writer, as well as an editor-at-large role for Now magazine. At the Leveson inquiry in 2012, he denied illegally publishing stories collected through phone hacking. Presumably, he wandered around the office with blinkers on and sang la 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 whenever anyone discussed blagging. In a statement at the time of the News of the World's closure, he said, "Just remember, my job is to bring you guys the best showbiz stories in the business week in, week out. The X Factor, Cheryl and Ashley, Kate Moss, Towie, and all of that good stuff. I do so in a legal, ethical and moral way, and will continue to do so." Legal? Well, I had to take his word for that one, for legal reasons. In fact, for ethical and moral, that brings credulity so close to breaking point that if it were a Stretch Armstrong toy, he'd have hands covered in goo. I just love this article straight away because it's just pointing out everything that he has done and how bad he's done it. But it does get worse. In 2013, he returned to The Sun with a column in the Sunday edition, which had risen rapidly from the News of the World's toxic ashes. He became editor of the Bizarre Showbiz column in 2014, longest stepping stone for future editors of the whole paper, and was promoted to associate editor, Showbiz and TV, in 2016. He also appeared as a showbiz reporter on ITV's Lorraine for 8 years before leaving acrimoniously, I do apologise, and writing extensively about it in his column. Well, with this here, I have spoken about when he left Lorraine on a stream a couple of months ago, and the reason that he left was because Lorraine and everyone else behind the scenes absolutely hated him, because he was getting too big for his boots. I went over this, like I said, in one of the streams where we were talking about it regarding Caroline Flack. I believe it was in February or March of this year. And they hated what he did, because he was coming out basically being the big I am. And the articles he was publishing in The Sun at the time, they were just dragging everyone down. He tried ruining everyone's careers. But then, this is what he does, and that's why no one likes him. And obviously, when he was hired for GB News, everyone was like, oh yeah, you know, give shit to shit. That's exactly what it is. But as you can see by here, this is one of his articles. So we got The Sun, Wednesday, November the 11th, 2015. This one by here, Hollywood Panic. A-list actors virus diagnosed, rock showbiz. Womanizing star has string of ex-lovers. That's Charlie Sheen. Everyone knew he was Charlie Sheen. But this is what he does go on to say by here. Wooten's back catalogue of stories is littered with bitter, barbed and blatantly spun tales. But one particular piece in 2015 brought him to wider attention. Topped with a headline, Hollywood Panic, upon which Wooten denied having had any influence. The front page article began, like we just said, despite an exclusive tag, Wooten loves to throw the word exclusive around. The story was essentially a rewrite of reporting by Radar Online, which had appeared earlier the same month. The British Medical Journal wrote that it showed how not to report a case of it, with the Terence Higgins Trust called it irresponsible and an insidious headline grab. Owen Jones wrote in The Guardian, the 1980s are back, not in the form of male pop stars wearing eyeliner, but headlines dripping with stigma. Hollywood Panic, booms The Sun newspaper. A-list actors diagnose rock showbiz. Womanizing star has string of ex-lovers, it adds. Seeing the combination of that panic in print is not something my generation is accustomed to. 3 decades ago, it was a tragic norm. For those who have spent their lives campaigning to overcome the stigma of this treatable illness, it is a bleak day. And obviously, Wooten didn't care, he sailed on unaffected. After Wooten complained about the celebrities demanding copy control during a brief storm in the teacup in 2017 involving Claire Balding, Popovich wrote, who is better qualified to opine on the degradation of the art than Dan Wooten? Who is to showbiz journalism what that Spanish pensioner was to that fresco of Christ? In 2018, he was promoted to executive editor of The Sun, which is what we have seen, and gifted a slot on talk radio, the prize for being such a good and faithful servant to Rupert Murdoch. From behind the mic, he picked up on every culture war story going, combining sniping and moralising in equal measure. While in print, he continued to pump out a stream of salacious stories, getting lots of attention for sustained campaign against Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, once he realised there were page views to be had in bashing the Duchess on every possible occasion. In September 2019, a front page Sun story bylined to Wooten and headlined, Not in Meg Backyard, groan, from April that year, was ruled to have breached Independent Press Standards Organisation guidelines on accuracy. Wooten had claimed that Prince Harry and Meghan had upset staff by banning low-paid staff from using a car park near Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, where they lived at the time. The car park wasn't closed, some staff still used it, and the royal couple hadn't made the decision to change its use. The Sun published an apology. Now we're coming into this one by here now with Caroline Flack. After Caroline Flack passed away in February 2020, Wooten used the tragedy as a means to promote his new drive time show on talk radio. The station promoted his monologue with this line, Dan Wooten will today launch his new drive time show on talk radio, with a personal reflection on his relationship with Caroline Flack following the presenter's tragic passing. To call Wooten shameless is an understatement. He is a black hole into which shame is drawn and destroyed so that not one atom of self-reflection remains. And that's when it was on there. After giddily announcing that it was his first drive time show, he trailed his heartfelt reflections before the news, then after saying he would shake up the biased and boring coverage on the wireless. He pulled an emotional handbrake turn, and you could almost see him trying to wring tears from his eyes. Caroline never moaned about the criticism that came from the public or the media. Yeah, it was classic Wooten spin. It wasn't he and his colleagues in the tabloid press who hurt it, but the public, the nasty judging public. He used Flack's death as a means to defend himself and his bosses at The Sun, claiming he had supported her, and that his stories had been on her side, which they weren't. So then we go to Andrew Brady, who is Caroline Flack's ex-fiancé, had a very different perspective on Wooten's role. He wrote, and obviously Wooten did dispute these. I would like to shine a light on one of the main suspects, Dan Wooten. He works for The Sun, ITV and Talk Radio, last time I checked. Dan, you should be ashamed of yourself. Every time you scrutinised, manipulated and betrayed her trust. Every time you got a compromising story of her or one of her loved ones and used it against her. Tormenting her and calling her every name under the sun, which they did. Almost a breaking point. So much so she felt so helpless and thought it necessary to give you another story and another matter to try and make the other story disappear. Dan, you used to go on breakfast TV and you claim to be friends with Caroline. I am singling you out because in addition to personally attacking her on several occasions, you have also created a style of showbiz journalism in the UK that is subjecting ordinary people to hurtful and demoralising stories. You may not feel guilty for her passing, as you no longer put your name to articles of her demise, but instead you let young journalist minions feel like it's okay to say hurtful things. Anything said by The Sun is on your hands. Dan, why do you do this? Because you feel entitled to, that's why. Because apparently it's in the public's best interest? But is it? Who actually cares about who Caroline's dating or what outfit she's wearing? I bet you wouldn't even notice a difference in revenue if you just controlled yourself a little and had some restraint. This is people's lives you're gambling with. And with that one there, obviously we have seen when people have gone onto his Twitter and everything else and they're saying, Dan, you're the one who rated A-list celebrities' cleavage from the Oscars. And you say that you're one of the best journalisms and all this kind of shit. You're not, mate. You are one of the worst people on this planet. You have made people take their own lives because of the hurtful things you say in the media. His dew-eyed monologue, Dan Wooten, rolled onwards. In January 2020, Wooten broke the news that Prince Harry and Meghan were moving to Canada and stepping away from the royal family, ahead of the couple's planned announcement of the decision. And then you had this one by here. So, here in the UK, this is Philip Schofield. And to be honest with you, he is one of the funniest and one of the greatest TV presenters ever. I love the guy, he's so funny. TV Philip comes out at 57. I'm gay, I'm proud, and I love my incredible wife. His next big achievement was his involvement in Philip Schofield coming out in February 2020. While Philip Schofield has insisted that it was his decision to talk about his sexuality, multiple sources suggest that Wooten put it to the presenter. The Sun knows about his sexuality and was highly likely to publish a story that would make him look like a hypocrite. If that's what happened, it's a classic move. A paper confronts someone with information and tells them they'd better cooperate on the story or it'll be much worse. There are those ethics that Wooten withered on about back in the News of the World days. But with that one there, I do want to just stop for a moment. A couple of years ago, the Wachowski brothers, now the Wachowskis, the ones who wrote, directed, bound the Matrix trilogy, Speed Racer, Jupiter Ascending, and obviously now they both transitioned, but one of them was already out, already transitioned, but the other one, and I can't remember her name, but she lives in Chicago, didn't do anything, she was just going about her life, she was going through the transition. A reporter from the Daily Mail turned up on her doorstep and said, I know who you are, you let me tell this story that you've transitioned to become a woman. If you don't, it's going to get worse. Exactly what Wooten has done to Philip Schofield. It's sad to see that this is what journalism has become. There's no more integrity in anything. And the way that you got all these media outlets, you got The Sun, again, GB News and all these other places, Sky News, Good Morning Britain, all these ones, BBC, CNN, Fox, They're all in it just to basically say, right, what can we say? What can we get the public to panic over? At the moment, here in the UK, people are panic buying fuel, petrol, gas in America. They don't need to. You know, they've actually come out and said, you know, Tesco, all the supermarkets, no, we do have it. We just haven't got enough drivers to come. It's going to be late turning up. That is it. But again, no, the media, this is what they like to do. They like to make people panic so they can be like, oh my God, get people out there. Happened last year. Worldwide, toilet rolls. Why toilet rolls? Anyway, the January 2020 royal scoop was also cast into a different light by June of that year, when despite threats from the son of Wooten himself, Byline Times published claims that Wooten paid £4,000 to the partner of a royal official for stories about him, published in June and July of 2019 about this son Archie's nannies and who his godparents were. I'll give you £4,000 if you give me a story. Yeah, you know, this is how bad he is. Wooten claimed he was the victim of misinformation that had been fed to the investigative reports in a calculated and malicious way. Oh no, Mr. Wooten, oh no. Now Wooten is finally leaving the Sun and Talk Radio to become one of the stars signings for GB News, the Andrew Neil-fronted Brexit-backing hedge fund-supported new channel, and write the twice-weekly Mail Online column. It's the Piers Morgan model, combining a TV slot with a bully pulpit for Mail Online to pursue feuds and set the record straight. In the hiring announcement, GB News CEO Angelo, whatever that is, the former CEO of Sky News Australia says Dan Wooten shares our vision for challenging the status quo and being more inclusive of different viewpoints while delivering impartial journalism and entertaining debate. Yet he doesn't do any of them. Nothing says challenging the status quo like a new channel funded by a vast legacy media empire, Liberty Global, with extra cash from a right-wing foundation funded by a multi-millionaire hedge fund owner, Legatum, hiring a Sun editor from Talk Radio, an outlet owned by famous status quo hater, Rupert Murdoch. Does it? I'd say we should just ignore Wooten and, like others have said, let GB News become the right-wing equivalent of Phantom Zone. But I don't think we'll be that lucky. Expect his scoops, rants and manipulative monologues to be promoted by the Daily Mail and other media monstrosities like Amol Rajan, who broke the scoop about Wooten's hiring to give him plenty of attention too. And that's what we've got today. I will leave that link below because it is such a phenomenal piece. And obviously, like we've said as well, the person who wrote it as well, they've got tons of other great articles, but I do want to show you just one thing before we leave, before we finish today's video, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Dan Wooten's Twitter from 2 days ago. Report of the death of GB News greatly exaggerated by our rivals, as usual. Last night we beat Sky News in prime time, 7-11, yet again. Our digital numbers are soaring. We are literally a few weeks in. Thank you to our amazing loyal viewers for blocking out the noise. Yeah, they haven't. You know, which I think is really funny because Sky News, primetime, have been getting 60-odd thousand. BBC has been getting like 50-odd thousand for their news channels. And then you got Dan Wooten saying, yes, we got this. But some of their shows have been getting 0 viewers. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell for future updates, and I'll see each and every one of you soon. Thank you for staying around. I love to you all.